Thank you, Senator Klobuchar. I'm going to call on Representative Randall.
Thank you so much, Senator. And thank you to our witnesses for being here today to shed light on the blatant disregard of the rule of law that we have seen from this administration. They're executing illegal warrants in violation of the Fourth Amendment, preventing members of Congress from exercising their lawful congressional oversight duty, and failing to uphold tribal sovereignty by rounding up and detaining tribal citizens. I visited the Northwest Detention Center in my district 6 times to ensure that immigrants are being treated with dignity, with humanity, and with care. And what I've seen on each and every visit is a stark reminder of the chaos, the pain, and the confusion at the hands of Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, and Kristi Noem. And what happens when policy is developed from a place of hate and not a place of facts. I've heard report after report of the denial of basic rights within the facility in my district, and twice I've been illegally denied entry when attempting to conduct an unannounced oversight visit to further investigate these concerning reports. And we know that this is only one of the many ways in which this administration is acting illegally. There are 12 tribal nations in my district, and I've heard concerns from so many of them about how ICE and CBP are racially profiling tribal citizens and detaining them, people who are indigenous to this country. I've had tribal citizens tell me they're sending their kids to school with their tribal IDs on them out of safety and fear. And when tribal members show their tribal IDs to ICE and CBP, those officers lack any understanding of tribal ID cards. Last week, Secretary Noem wrote to tribal leaders claiming that no enrolled tribal citizen has been detained and that no ICE operations have occurred on tribal lands. And this is a pure lie. She's calling every tribal citizen who has spoken out about their experience liars, and it is disgusting. Mr. Bonhomme, how are ICE and CBP educating and training officers and agents on the United States government-to-government relationship with Indian tribes?
You know, I might want to punt that one to Mr. Schwank in terms of the training.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar exactly with, how that topic is covered. I will say it was not an issue that percolated to the upper ranks of the department during my time there. And I frankly, your description of it is quite concerning in a way that I hadn't heard before. So thank you for raising it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We've continued to hear concerns, not just in my district. When we were in Minnesota, I heard the same thing from tribal leaders there who were looking out for and advocating for the safety of constituents, of their neighbors, of tribal members who, are stopped because they are brown and forced to prove that they are not only indigenous to this land, but that they are citizens. This may be a question for Mr. Schwank also. Given that some tribal leaders have encouraged their members to carry tribal IDs to show ICE and CBP in case they're detained, do you know, are ICE and CBP agents trained on how to identify a valid tribal ID?
I do not, thank you for the question, but I do not have any particular information on how they're trained to identify a tribal ID. I do know there are general classes on identification documents that they take, but again, because we have eliminated practical testing, I have no idea if they're actually learning it. In the materials I teach, or I taught for the academy, the only things we discussed involving Native Americans were the possibility that some Native American tribes have the ability to cross the United States border. That was really all we ever covered in that side of it.
Thank you. What about racial profiling? Can you tell us what guidance was provided to ICE agents regarding racial profiling?
Yes, yes, Representative. In the training material that we taught, the material calls for the department to follow the Department of Justice's guidelines on the use of race and other factors in law enforcement operations. But in practice, what the cadets are taught is to follow what's called the Kavanaugh stop. That is that they are allowed to use race as a factor, not the sole factor, but a factor in their operations.
Thank you. I think we've all seen the disturbing effects of that practice in our communities and across the country, and I really appreciate you for being here and sharing. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Representative